This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 48, San Diego Comic Con and Gotham News. Hi, and welcome back to Gotham TV Podcast. This is episode 48 of our show dedicated to the Fox TV show Gotham and the connected DC universe. We've been away for a little while, but we're back to talk all about San Diego Comic Con and all the Gotham news that's happened while we've been gone. I'm one of your hosts, John. I'm not one of your hosts, John. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hi, I'm one of your other hosts, John. We'll also be talking about the DC news as well at San Diego Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, yes, we may be swapping personalities, it would seem.
Sorry about that. Welcome back. John, what have you been up to?
I've been lying in the sun in the south of France.
Very nice.
What have you been up to?
I've also been lying in the sun in the south of France.
A lovely villa in the Ardèche region of southern France.
Yeah.
Sun, great wine,
Cheap
great
wine.
food, canoeing, cycling, walking, all that kind of stuff. Really nice break,
Yeah.
but at the
And
same
no
time...
internet connection either. Yeah, which was great.
Yeah. Lots of books, though. Lots of books.
Absolutely.
Reading in the sun, getting a bit of a tan, swimming in the pool, all that kind of stuff. I hope we're not making you too jealous. But, yeah, great time. But also, I have been doing a little side project, Hannibal podcast, for TV Podcast Industries, which is part of the Gotham TV Podcast and the Defenders TV Podcast grouping.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been podcasting on season 3 of Hannibal. Unfortunately, the last season on NBC at least.
That's
but with my friend Irene, who's also on the Defenders TV podcast about the Netflix Marvel Daredevil, aka Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and the Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been podcasting on all things Hannibal. So if you enjoy a more mature podcast, and by that I mean that we're talking about gore, horror, there's fruity language,
Yes.
all that kind of stuff, then please check us out. Listen to us on tvpodcastindustries.com. Or you can listen to us on iTunes at www.tvpodcastindustries.com/iTunes, or of course, again, any other podcast catcher such as Player FM. And of course, that's the same applies for Gotham as well. You can hear us on iTunes or any other podcast catchers such as Stitcher, Player FM, and so on.
Yeah, and make sure, as we are a pretty irregular show while the season isn't on air, make sure you subscribe to the podcast in whatever your podcast app of choice is, and make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes, give us a review, let people find us ahead of season 2. You'll then get every new episode we release between now and the launch date of season 2 of Gotham right into your browser. So that's great. May I just say your Hannibal podcast is excellent. Anybody who's following Hannibal, it's a really good take on it. Yourself and Irene have a really good rapport. It's really good to,
Thank you.
Yeah, really good to hear you two together. A bit jealous that I'm not on that one because I love Hannibal as well. But sure, I might make a guest appearance once in a while on that show too.
Maybe in the form of a pleasant plate of food. In the spirit of Hannibal.
Possibly.
So Derek, what have you been doing?
Well, if you follow us on Facebook, obviously Gotham TV Podcast over on Facebook, you may have seen that I've been pretty excited about one particular computer game for about 2 years now, I think, since it was first announced. That is Batman Arkham Knight. I'm a huge Batman fan, obviously, why we do this show. And I'm a huge gamer, particularly on the PlayStation 4. I probably got the PlayStation 4 specifically for this game. I got it about 6 months ago in anticipation of Batman Arkham Knight being released. And I've spent pretty much every spare moment I had available to me playing the game, and I've completed it, and I have to say it is one of the best games I think I've ever played. The storyline's fantastic. If you're a Batman fan, there are brilliant takes on your favourite characters and some lesser-known ones in there. Really, really enjoyable game and a fantastic send-off for the character. No spoilers.
Yeah, but you're on your second round of
Yes.
Batman Arkham Knight.
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm really enjoying it that much.
Yeah.
Loads to find and loads to do, and a really crazy Edward Nigma. If you're not a gamer and your only experience of Edward Nigma is on the show Gotham, the take that they have of Edward Nigma in the game is fantastic and really good, and you hear him in the background all the way through the game. Really, really good.
Yeah, no, it's a great game. Fantastic. Looks amazing as well. Obviously, there's the Batmobile being divisive. I kind of enjoy it, I have to say, but the platforming with the Batmobile is a challenge for me. I do get spinny and then chuck a whitey and then need to lie down for about 30 seconds to regain my composure, get back up, chuck a whitey, and yeah, that's brought back my chucking a whitey phase. I used to get it a lot with Half-Life.
It's always in your favourite games, isn't it?
And Half-Life 2, which I loved as well. And I just, because I spin around so much with the controller.
Yeah, possibly. I have to say, some of the levels that that have the involvement of the Batmobile are fantastic. But the accomplishment you feel when you complete a level that seems impossible to begin with, or complete a mission that seems impossible to begin with, particularly with the Batmobile, is one of pure joy, and any gamer can share that experience definitely. So huge recommendation there from me. Go out and get yourself a Batman Arkham Knight game. You might have to get yourself PlayStation 4, so it might be a couple of months before you save up the money for that one. But there you go.
But I think with that, on to the general Gotham news.
Yeah. So tons has happened since we've been not podcasting. I think our last podcast was about the 28th of May, just after the show finished in the UK. So there's been a few great pieces of news since we've been gone.
Definitely. I mean, first of all, season 2 is returning in September 21st, and it's going to be Monday again. So it's going to be Magic Mondays again with Gotham, hopefully right across the globe, as it felt like for season 1. It's also going to be returning to the UK, and it's going to be back on Channel 5 again in the autumn. No exact date on that, but in the autumn.
Yeah. Generally feel Channel 5 are usually a bit closer to the date they announce their own launch date. They usually wait for a couple of weeks beforehand, so we probably won't know the exact date that the show's going to launch in the UK and Ireland until around September. We're hoping it's going to be very close to the US, though.
But then on the casting, we have Nicholas d'Agosta and Chris Chalk, both who we saw as guest stars in season 1, and they've now been confirmed as season 2 regulars.
Yeah.
So that's really good news.
Absolutely.
Presumably, it's really going to sort of elevate the appearances of these characters in the show.
Yeah. Nicholas d'Agosto, you may remember, played Harvey Dent in season 1. So a really big arc is coming for that character, and we're really looking forward to seeing what happens with him. Chris Chalk plays Lucius Fox, who is going to become really, really big on the show. One of the things we'll talk about a little later on is the San Diego Comic Con news, but I did want to bring in a comment made by both David Mazouz and Sean Pertwee, where he described the relationship between Lucius Fox, Bruce, and Alfred as Operation Good Guys. They're going to be working within the city as good guys, teaming up with Lucius Fox, who gave that very cryptic message towards the end of Gotham season 1 to Bruce, telling him that his father was on the side of good. So really interesting to see that team work together in season 2.
Yeah, they're balancing up the old good guy side, which was beginning to sort of get weighed down a bit with the bad guys. So
Absolutely.
That's really good. I wonder whether Lucius Fox will be giving them spelunking outfits to check out what's behind the big fire in Thomas Wayne's study, which we saw at the end of season 1. That would be very exciting.
That would be fantastic. And speaking about bad guys, there is a bit more casting news for season 2. 2 new characters have been cast. James Frayne, who we know from Agent Carter, the Marvel TV show. He was also in True Blood. He has been cast in the part of Theo Galavan. And cast in the part of his sister Tabitha Gallivan is Jessica Lucas of Cloverfield. These two are brand new characters, villainous characters, also cast as season regulars for season 2, which is really exciting for me. I'll talk about that in a second. But they're basically coming in as two industrialists, two very wealthy people coming into the city of Gotham and kind of trying to take it over. We feel they're going to be characters that'll be up against possibly Wayne Enterprises. But one of the big things about this announcement is the fact that they've been cast as season regulars. So we're going to get some brand new characters coming on board to come into the city of Gotham, and we're going to get a much more longer form story from them rather than just having them be guest actors for an episode or two.
Yeah, long-term bad guys, really potentially going to ramp it up. We saw sort of hints at that with the Cranes, Daddy and son Crane in Jonathan and Gerald. So that was really good to see. And obviously then with the Ogre, again, we saw sort of quite a nice extended through line for a bad guy. But here we have season regular bad guys.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. And we hope that that they get used throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. There's been some talk about which possible DC characters they could be. I've been researching a bit. There are some characters they could possibly lead to, but I'm not going to talk about them now. I don't want to spoil some sensitive information potentially about what they could become in the season. We'll talk about that as the season begins. And I know that Bruno Heller, one of the creators of the show, is very conscious of not setting them up to be a future character. He wants to set them up to be industrialists coming into Gotham. And that's kind of the play that he's done on this. So,
yeah. I mean, the general sense here, and I think it will come as well with the San Diego Comic Con news that we're about to get into, is that there does seem to be the situation where, yes, the GCPD is going to be the anchor for Jim Gordon and for some of the other cast, but that ultimately the view of Gotham is very much out into the city and really will not be looking in at some of the inner workings of Gotham, which I think about this time last year we kind of thought that maybe they would do a Gotham Central style and maybe look at the intricacies and relationships within the GCPD as well as the wider Gotham universe. But I think the view of Gotham Season 2 is very much more expansive in relation to the city of Gotham and not looking in at the GCPD.
Yeah, absolutely. So that takes us really neatly on to our San Diego Comic Con news for Gotham. San Diego Comic Con, as you probably know, took place this last weekend in San Diego in the US. Tons of stuff that came out of there, just little tidbits of news, not a huge amount of really spoilery stuff, but we wanted to talk through some of the exciting stuff that we heard from the various members of cast and the creatives that were over at San Diego Comic Con. So really good cast panel and really interesting interviews that were held off the back of them. We'll embed a lot of the videos of this in our show notes. So if you just want to go to the show notes for this particular episode at gothamtvpodcast.com/podcasts, you'll find the most recent episode there, this one, and you'll see all the details that we're going to put up.
And it'll also be bang on the homepage as well, in the posts as well, straight at the GothamTVPodcast.com homepage.
Yep, absolutely. So first up, we have a little quote from Bruno Heller. This is kind of a mix of a few quotes that he gave over the time at the panel and some other interviews. What he said was, Season 2 is what we've always wanted for Gotham. We did a lot of origin stories in Season 1, which will start to pay off in Season 2. Now that the organised crime element of Gotham is gone, it will lead to the supervillains taking over. And I think that's really exciting to hear that's the direction that Bruno Heller wants to take the show.
Yeah, I mean, in both instances, both from the panel, but also from some of the interviews being done, notably with IGN.com, it was very much this evolution of the bad guys, basically. That whereas in Season 1, we had the Mafia with Falcone and Maroni, those that old school, old style, and we had the whole chaos is coming with the Penguin, and now Penguin, obviously King of Gotham, but we will now see the beginnings of a new breed, not gremlins, I hasten to add, but more extreme criminal elements coming into play in Gotham. In a sense, the seal has been broken, and the old guard swept aside, either killed or retired off,
Mhm.
and now you've got a different breed of criminal coming in, notably with Oswald Cobblepot now as the King of Gotham.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting just to see whether these other criminal elements begin to challenge Penguin, because he's now in the position that Falcone was last season,
Mhm.
and Falcone had Maroney, Oswald, and Fish Mooney all vying for his position. Penguin is not necessarily safe and secure.
Yeah.
Who knows, though? It'll be really interesting to see, I think. And it'll be interesting to see how much they ramp up this extremity in the criminal element. I mean, is it going to be totally, like, crazy? Or is it going to be more measured so that, it's an evolution? I think John Stevens talks about it as an evolution.
Yeah.
So I would expect it's more gradual and ramping up and up. Because we don't have, say, like in the Nolan universe, where it was the Batman kind of caused then the criminals to become ever more extreme. Because actually the good guy side had to become extreme to wipe out the criminality in Gotham. We don't have that here, but maybe there could be some vigilante characters that are given, again, more screen time from a regular guest appearance type of slot on the show, more so than, say, the Balloon Man or other vigilantes that we're seeing, definitely. Yep. But I also like the idea that a lot of the origin stories, or some of them, may actually see some payoff or further development, further evolution into season 2. And of those, there's 2 that spring to mind for me, and that would be Jonathan Crane, because he was left in a hospital. So it'd be interesting. That's an area, given what we saw at the final scene of that episode, with a pretty haunting scarecrow climbing over his hospital bed. I'm sure that would make anyone extreme and potentially go off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one being Jerome.
Yes.
Which is another highlight of San Diego Comic Con, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Jerome was the character played by Cameron Monaghan in season 1 that everybody speculated was going to become the Joker. He is playing up to this so much on social media, absolutely loving it. But at San Diego Comic Con, the biggest moment for me at the weekend, because I'm a huge Gotham fan,
definitely.
Obviously, this moment was fantastic. Essentially, have a look at the panel that will pop into the show notes, as I mentioned. But Cameron Monaghan, to everyone's surprise, and it even looked like the cast's surprise, turned up at San Diego Comic Con, took the microphone away from an audience member who was asking a question, and shouted out, calling for Jim Gordon, in character, calling for Jim Gordon, and asked him, "Do you have a high pain threshold?" And then at that moment, he's dragged out by security. Fantastic moment. I didn't see anything else like that happen over the weekend. Jim Gordon, Ben McKenzie stood up, took the microphone out, and shouted back at him, "I will find you, Jerome. I will find you," in character. Great moment, a great way to end a panel in front of thousands of fans for the TV show Gotham. Really great moment, I think.
Yeah, it was a really good surprise. As you say, it wasn't something I'd spotted in any of the other panels I'd seen. It was a great surprise, though. Absolutely thought it was spot on the way they did it. And again, it plays into the anarchic feel of Jerome as a character, and with the hints that isn't he the Joker. Again, I just thought really good little surprise for the audience and possibly even the panel, definitely.
Yeah, definitely the security guards didn't seem to know where to look and what to do. They did just drag him out of the place. But there's some great little photographs if you have a look on the internet for those. Really good as well. Speaking of the crazy in season 2, I think we're also going to be spending a bit more time in Arkham as well. We've got Jerome, which is, I think that's where he ended up. But we've also got the resolution to Barbara's story, or the continuation of Barbara's story. So Barbara Gordon ended off pretty crazy at the end of season 1. Erin Richards got a conversation with IGN where she essentially says that this is a character who fell down all the stairs, hitting her head on the way down. She's not going to come back from that. She's going to get crazier. This is going to get worse. So really interesting to see what happens there with Barbara.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think as well, coming back to the craziness of it all, is that John Stevens made a little comment, I think, in one of the interviews where he said, death is not necessarily the end in Gotham.
That's right.
Now, whether that means kind of resurrection-y type stuff. So again, I'm thinking potentially Gerald Crane, maybe the ogre, maybe Barbara's parents. That would actually be quite a nice resurrection story.
Possibly.
You know, some of these things, because we had mentioned that there were some deaths that occurred in season 1 where we thought if only they had kept them alive and banged them up in Arkham, and they could have been, in a sense, developed in Arkham and come out and cause more havoc. Again, really making that point that Arkham is like a leaky pipe. It just leaks prisoners. So that was an interesting statement, or whether it is a question that someone else takes on a mantle. So again, this could be the concept and the idea embodied by a man such as Batman, but on the other side could ultimately bring about the continuation of someone, something, and so on, which could be really good. So there's a nice little exciting and anticipating nod there from John Stevens. No, I like that. That started getting ideas whirring around in my head from season 1. So that was an interesting bit of news.
Yeah, and again, we still think the Fish Mooney is alive. There is a very good possibility that they could either leave her alive or dead, and John Stevens seems to be opening up that little doorway again, just to make sure that people know, potentially, if you didn't see someone die on screen, they're not dead. So really, really good. A couple other good little pieces from interviews with the cast. Cameron Bicondova said that there'll be a new duo for her at the start of season 2. There'll be a new set of characters for her to play around with and to kind of find her place in Gotham. She's, at the end of season 1, she was dealing with Fish Mooney. She joined her team, so she can't really go back to good old Brucey. She's going to need to work out where she is, whether she's the villain or whether she's the hero. But she also says one big thing for me, because we talked about it so much towards the start of season 1, she says they're going to be exploring a part of Selina's backstory in season 2. Do you remember in season 1, she was carrying around that photograph of her mother and saying that she knew that her mother was still alive and everybody was criticizing her for that? I think that's what they're talking about here, that we could potentially be seeing the backstory of Selina. What happened to her mother? Will she find her? And that'll be a nice little development for the character of Selina Kyle for me.
Absolutely. I'm also assuming, even though nothing really was said, I would suspect that Thomas and Martha Wayne's murder will increasingly take a back seat, and in fact further and further and further back on the coach that is Gotham. I would say. I also think that the show has kind of said that it's going to stop really being a procedural. So again, it's another hint that it's really not going to be centered on the GCPD, even though it will focus where the base for the likes of Jim Gordon, obviously Leslie Tompkins and Harvey Bullock are going to be, but they are ultimately going to look out into the city. And that, again, it was something that we had talked about. We would have liked to have seen more serialized elements, and of course they're saying to replace that procedural element, they will become more serialized, and that was coming from Corey Michael Smith in one of his interviews. So that's interesting as well, because I think the rise of the Riddleman, the Riddler, from Edward Nygma, played brilliantly by Corey Michael Smith in season 1. That was a real serialized element, actually, of season 1.
Yeah, very much. He said there's loads of characters to play with in the city of Gotham. There's loads of characters you want to latch on to, whether they be good or bad guys. And they're taking that on board and turning it into a much more serialized show, which was really what we've wanted. And we've talked about it, because some of the criticisms we had of some of the episodes in season 1 were that they didn't play out over longer periods of time, over longer episodes. So it sounds like they've listened, and sounds like that's the way they're going to go, which is really good. Funny you should mention Harvey Bullock's home in the GCPD, because there was a fantastic little leak there from Harvey Bullock. Donal Logue, who plays the character, is being interviewed by Matt Fowler from IGN, and pretty much straight after Corey Michael Smith made this comment of the serialization of season 2 of Gotham, Matt Fowler asked Donal Logue will you be there to see the change in the Riddle Man? Will you be there to deal with Enigma? How are you going to react to the change? The response from Donald Logue I thought was really interesting. He said Harvey's pretty tired. He wants to do something different with his life. He's not sure whether he wants to battle against those elements he's been battling with for so long. And maybe he has a career change going on, and he might meet Enigma. He might possibly not. So it sounds like Harvey may be retiring or maybe leaving the GCPD.
Yeah, that was definitely very cryptic, very enigmatic from Donald Logue there. But again, really intriguing. I'm really excited to see what happens with Harvey Bullock. I mean, my only concern is I really hope he doesn't gradually shift out of the lens as well in Gotham, because some of his episodes last season, like Spirit of the Goat, were excellent. I absolutely loved them. Where Harvey was front and center of an episode. It was really good. So,
and where would we be without the Bullockisms every week? Where would we be?
Exactly.
Such a pity. That's kind of it for the Gotham San Diego Comic Con news. Anything else you thought or you saw there, John?
I just recall, obviously that there were also going to be new bad guys coming in, and I think it was Firefly was one of them. So I was quite excited by that, actually.
Yeah, very interesting. Plays a big part in Arkham Knight as well.
Yeah.
Great moment.
So that's one to watch out for. I mean, we all know about Mr. Freeze being there as well, from previous conversations and interviews with the creators of Gotham. So it was nice to hear another bad guy there. And of course, coupled with the two new Galavan baddies or corporate baddies, which may link in quite nicely with the evil corporate Wayne Enterprises, then it'll be an interesting set of new bad guys and gals to feast our eyes on and see what happens. And certainly if some of them are going to resurrect back to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the Galavans, we did get 2 responses when we posted this on our Facebook about the casting of the Galavans. 2 people responded to us saying, is this the start of the Court of Owls? Because they're a corporate menace in the city. Thought that was really interesting and a good point brought in by our listeners. Thank you very much for that one. If there's anything we've missed about the Gotham coverage at San Diego Comic Con, email us at feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. We'll talk about it on the next episode. There's still a bit more news from San Diego Comic Con. I'm sure you know what we're going to be talking about, but we have to get it out there. Number 1, John, we've got the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice trailer.
Oh, we do. Oh, we do. Wow. Loved it. Like 2 parts of the trailer that absolutely blew my mind and absolutely loved was Bruce Wayne running into the dust cloud, which was obviously a throwback to Man of Steel, where Superman is fighting with Zod, and he runs towards the fighting through the dust cloud. Really good. It's exactly what Bruce Wayne, Batman, would do.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fantastic.
And you notice the Wayne Finance sign sitting on the ground behind him, showing that it's one of the Wayne buildings that's been destroyed in this absolute devastation of Metropolis. So really interesting.
I loved then where Superman is ripping the roof off the Batmobile and then just this hunk of a Batman stands up and looks at him. Not afraid, not deterred, not wavering, just standing up to Superman.
Yeah, come at me, bro. Yeah, come at me, Soups. Definitely.
Yeah,
Great
it was superb. It really was. And I mean, then you've got Superman trying to deal with the expectations of the human race and to try and justify his actions to the human race. And one of the things that really stuck out and at me was the response of his mum, where they're having a talk, and she says, "You owe this planet nothing." It was a really interesting way to go, because I thought it was really surprising that his mum would say that to essentially tell her son or her adopted son, you owe this planet nothing. In a sense, you do what you want.
Yeah, it was really interesting advice, wasn't it? It was essentially, you be their god, you be their leader, or you do nothing. Yeah, really great moment from the trailer. We also saw Wonder Woman in this trailer twice, 2 big battles. No indication of who she's fighting or whose side she's on. Will it be Batman and Wonder Woman v Superman, or will the 3 of them be teaming up against another baddie? Possibly Lex Luthor, who we also saw our first proper glimpse of, and all that jumps out to me, and it was intended this way because the music drops out, is "The red capes are coming. The red capes are coming." A nice little nod to the Boston Tea Party, to the redcoats are coming from the Independence War. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm right
War
on
of
my history.
Independence, yeah.
I am right on my history. Excellent.
Lexington and all that.
Yeah. And the one little moment that gave me shivers, because it's a nice new thing that we definitely didn't expect, is as Batman walks into the Batcave, sees the costume of Robin covered in graffiti, which looks like the Joker's graffiti with a ha ha ha, the joke's on you.
Yeah.
Looks like an indication that we may be seeing Jared Leto in Batman v Superman.
Which will be very, very cool if he does. Definitely.
We also have an empty Robin costume. So Robin exists in this universe. It is possible that Robin is already dead, unfortunately. So we may never actually get to see Robin on screen, but we do see the costume.
Yeah, one other thing that I really liked as well was obviously it was Batman, Superman battling, and Superman fires his lasers from his eyes, and there's Batman there sort of on the side of a building, and he shoots his grapple gun and then whisks off just in time as Superman, or you think it's Superman's laser, hits the side of the building, destroying it. And also, there's a real dynamic bit from the trailer, which obviously much of Christopher Nolan's Batman was gliding around, though you didn't really see the use of grapple guns except to get up from the floor onto the high buildings.
Yeah.
I think you did see some of it, but this was a real kind of it being used in the heat of battle, and I thought that was really different, really good, and actually reminded me of Arkham Knight, Batman Arkham Knight.
We have been playing it quite a lot. So
yeah. So that was cool.
Yeah, no, really, really good trailer. Really enjoyed it, and brilliant that the trailer was released directly after the panel. We were seeing descriptions of it on the internet at the time. Didn't expect it to be released as quickly as it was. So really exciting to see that. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well.
Then, speaking of the Batman universe, and in particular Joker, there was the Suicide Squad trailer as well, where we do see full frontal Joker.
Yes, we do.
Threatening that he's not going to kill someone, but that he's going to obviously hurt them a lot.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. Again, you didn't see too much. It certainly wasn't the whole Joker that you saw. You saw him from the top up, so very much the green hair, and some of the tattoos that you'd seen in that publicity shot were on display here.
And all the broken gold teeth.
Yeah, and the teeth, definitely. But it does show it as an established universe, and I love the opening with Amanda Waller. They're just saying, making people turn in on themselves is my speciality, I think she says. Really good, really kind of just generally dark and manipulative sounding.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of that. And then obviously gradually it builds up, showing different members of the Suicide Squad, and I think one of the biggest reactions was obviously when Harley Quinn was shown.
Yeah, Margot Robbie looks fantastic in the part. We knew she did. We've seen, stills before, but I think she just looks great. Really, really good. Looking forward to seeing it. I do wonder how this trailer plays outside of the San Diego Comic Con crowd, or a crowd like us, who know a lot of the characters, who've seen them in various, forms over the years. If this was playing in your cinema, in your local cinema, when you went to see, the Avengers film or something like that, you'd have no idea who most of these characters are. Any of the major actors that are in it are covered in huge amount of makeup or behind masks. Even Will Smith's behind a mask for a lot of the trailer. So I don't know how this plays. So it does kind of, I do understand why Warner Brothers weren't going to release this trailer directly after San Diego Comic Con. It got released on Monday, the day after the con itself. But I do understand that they probably would have cut a very different trailer, probably with a hero moment from Will Smith. That moment would have been played up a lot more. But really interesting, and I'm really excited about this film. Definitely, just to see what something brand new in an established DC universe is. They're not. It doesn't look like they're telling many origin stories here. It looks like they're going. These are characters that could have come out of the woodwork because of Superman, which I thought was an interesting line in the trailer itself.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we also do see Batman on top of a very swish-looking car being driven, presumably by Joker, with Harley Quinn in the passenger seat. So really, really good, I think.
Yeah, very interesting. One of our listeners, Doug Green, who's been listening for a long time, made a comment to us today that this is the one he's more excited about. He's not actually as excited about Batman v Superman. It seems to be too serious, whereas Suicide Squad seems to be getting the tone right of a movie about a bunch of dirty dozen supervillains who are going out to do something heroic. So I'm kind of on his side. I do see why he's finding this one the more intriguing one. But I'm sorry, Batman versus Superman is something I've always wanted to see on screen. So I'm that's my vote.
I think for me, Suicide Squad could, to some degree, be equated maybe with Guardians of the Galaxy from the Marvel side. It is that unknown quantity, maybe for a lot of people. Yeah, even like me, who reads comics, and for other people, I do, but I've never really followed Suicide Squad. I've heard of them in the same way I've heard of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I'd never really read any of the comics that much or really followed them. And so, to me, this is going to be a nice surprise, hopefully. Yeah. Whatever, yes, Joker, Batman, Deadshot. Certainly, I suppose Arrow has raised the profile of Suicide Squad as well. But to me, this is still very much an unknown quantity with regards to how they all work and act together in this film. So I'm really looking forward to this too. Yeah.
And that's pretty much it for our Comic Con news. There's a little bit more. In addition to this, some news that we haven't talked about in the past. We've spoken to the cast of Constantine before, another one of our DC connected shows. We've been talking about Constantine and how much we've enjoyed it over the last couple of years. One thing that did happen, unfortunately, since we went off air with our podcast, Constantine has been officially cancelled by NBC, with all of the cast being released from their contracts. They all signed on for their usual 4 or 5 year contracts with NBC for this show, and unfortunately all of them have now been released from their contracts. But a little ray of hope came out this week. You mentioned Arrow, John. A little ray of hope came out during San Diego Comic Con in a really interesting interview with one of the creators of Arrow, where they essentially said they are officially looking to get Matt Ryan, who played Constantine in the TV show. They are officially looking to get him on board for season 4 of Arrow. With some kind of ties into the mystical side of the DC universe. Really exciting for me. I'm really interested to see what they do.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really out of the blue, and it was a great confirmation, and it's all kind of seemingly surrounding the appearance of the magical, mystical character called Simon Dark in Arrow for season 4. So, this could be really, really good. I mean, it certainly, CW are more than happy to link in, as they've done really successfully with The Flash, and have those crossovers going on. They've obviously, taken it down the mystical route as well with sort of the whole the island.
Yeah, and with Ra's al Ghul as well.
And Ra's al Ghul, definitely. And now they're bringing in sort of Simon Dark, which is this magical character. And now the idea of bringing in Constantine. I mean, it does show some great confidence from this network in what is possible, and that nothing necessarily should be off the slate. Yeah. And so, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, stroke the rabbit's foot, all of that. It could be a really nice way of getting Constantine back on the TV, at least just the character.
Yeah.
And that deadpan delivery that we all love as Hellblazers. So really interested to see if this comes off. It would be great if it did. Again, we would still shout #SaveConstantine.
Absolutely. That does it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening for our coverage of San Diego Comic Con. We will be returning in a few weeks' time. Just to remind you, we are going to New York Comic Con in October, which is where both of us will be present for hopefully a Gotham panel and hopefully some interviews with some other interviews with the cast and some other great panels that are over there. Make sure you follow us for that coverage. That will be about 3 weeks into Gotham in the US. So hopefully they'll have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, we're also thinking that we might try and do some kind of Gotham evening, just a get together for people who are in New York for NYCC, or indeed who aren't in there for the Comic Con but are avid fans of Gotham and indeed listen to Gotham TV podcasts. We're hoping that maybe there's a couple of people in New York, or a couple of people who are visiting NYCC for the weekend, whether it's for the full 4 days or whether it's for just one of the days, and maybe that we can arrange to have some drinks, get together, chat, share our stories at New York, in a bar, and enjoy the Gotham community.
Absolutely.
So we will try and build that and organize that over time, and we will of course let you know the details of that sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we did get some feedback from Daniel Butcher and from Natalie Welch. We want to say thank you so much for the feedback. It is on the season of Gotham, so we're going to talk about it on our wrap-up show, which we should be doing in a couple of weeks' time. If you want to send in your own feedback, send it to feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. It's the best way to get in contact with us. You can also follow us on Twitter at Gotham TV Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Gotham TV Podcast, and also on Google+. Again, Gotham TV Podcast.
And remember, you can listen to all our podcasts on www.gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes, or subscribe as well through iTunes and subscribe through any good podcast catcher to be informed of the latest podcasts from Gotham TV Podcasts.
Well, that's episode 48 done, John. Only 2 more to go to episode 50. Might be doing something special for that one, but we'll let you know. Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, take care.